Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lighting Talk. Today, we will talk about security and guardrails for AI agents. This is an extremely hot topic, especially when you want to move your agents into production. For this particular reason, we will use Agent Development Kit, or ADK, in order to show you what are the different guardrails and checks that you need to apply to your agents. Behind the scenes, an agent consists of the foundation model, the tools, and the instructions how to call the different tools. And every time that we have a new query, then the core of the agent will run the different tools and return back to the different responses. The first checks that we need to apply are related to before we call an agent and after we call an agent. An example is before I call an agent, I want to know if I have all the necessary context to answer the question. For example, do I have the user preferences? Other checks are related to before and after calling a model. Before I call a model, for example, I want to remove any PII data, or after I call a model, I want to check the output if it follows specific patterns, specific style, or even if we respond with a toxic or a harmful way in order to remove that. The next guardrails are about calling tools. We need to apply checks before or after calling the tools. Before calling the tools, for example, we can apply checks if we already have authenticated the user for calling particular functions or particular tools. All these checks are specific for one agent. But what if I want to apply all these checks to multiple agents? Let's say I have 100 agents. Should I develop everything from scratch? The answer is no. Agent Development Kit has a notion of plugins. Plugins is a class that you can host all of your callbacks, and then you can plug them in all your different agents that you have. Of course, this layer is up to the developer to apply all these checks. But what if you have an administrator who wants to apply um, um, rules or guardrails or security guardrails across all the different agents across the org? In that case, you need separate tools. In Google Cloud, we have Model Armor that you can set all these different templates about security. For example, jailbreak security, harmfulness of models, etc. The developers, they don't need to apply something. Everything happens automatically with a call of a foundation model. Now, some other customers, what I have seen is they, instead of calling directly the model, they create the notion of a model gateway in which they call other models, lighter models like Gemini Flash Lite, that checks all the inputs and outputs, and they have custom rules in order to capture any kind of issues in their platform. On top of the development of the agents, we need also to make sure that the agents communicate with a very secure way. That means first we need to answer the question, who you are. So, authentication. Second, we need to encrypt the communication transit. Third, we need to authorize that this particular agent and user allowed to have this particular action. Fourth, we need the agents, they need to based on opaque design. That means that they don't need to expose what they have inside. And lastly, we need to ensure whatever returns back from the agent has been already verified by the user. But let's jump into some real examples and some real code. Here, if you go to the ADK documentation, you can search for callbacks. Here's an example code of how you can create a callback. First of all, you need to define a function. In this function, you can have the callback context in order to get the context from the agent. And then you can start writing your code to apply different guardrails, modifications, or skips, or as you can see here, as we described earlier. Then, to assign this callback into an agent, when you define the agent, for example, here we have before model callback, we assign the new function that we created. In terms of the plugins, if we go to the plugins, we will see that here we have defined one class that has the before agent callback and before model callback. And then in order to apply to one of our agents, we need to assign that plugin when we define the memory. And those are quick examples of how you can create secure agents and what are the guardrails that you need to have. Thank you very much.